cervical cancer is a public health problem because women are unnecessarily dying from cervical cancer, even though it's completely preventable. So cervical cancer used to be the leading cause of death in the United States that was related to cancers among women. And cervical cancer screening, specifically pap testing or pap smears, which are tests that look at cervical abnormalities among women, became more widely available. And we have been able to more than half the deaths for women who are diagnosed with cervical cancer. So currently, about 4,000 women every year die from cervical cancer, but these could completely be preventable through screening. Screening means that women can go to their doctor's office and get their cervical cancer screening either through a pap smear, which is, the test to go in and get a sample and look at abnormalities, or they can also be tested through the HPV screening. So HPV stands for human papilloma virus. It's the leading cause. Actually, 99% of cervical cancers that are diagnosed are because of the HPV virus. So we can screen for HPV. And if a woman is positive for HPV, it doesn't mean that they'll develop cervical cancer. What it means is we need to do close surveillance, monitoring, and they might recommend a pap smear after a positive test to ensure that there's no abnormal cells. In fact, we can catch cervical abnormalities 3 to 7 years before they turn into cancer, meaning, checking for these abnormalities is a great way to treat them before they develop into cancer. Many women still are dying from cervical cancer, and this is because of lack of access to care. So cervical cancer mainly affects women who have never been screened. And these are typically women who have very limited access to care, whether it's lack of insurance, whether it's proximity to a provider. So, for example, rural women or women living in poverty who cannot pay for their preventative services. It could be time barriers. I'm a mom of a toddler, so it's very difficult to find time to, prioritize my own health, for example. So that's a common barrier among women. And also stigma and fear of the exam. The pap smear that I mentioned is infamous. So if you ask a woman about a pap smear, they'll tell you that it's not fun. The speculum exam specifically, that's another word for it, is the process of getting those cervical cells is very uncomfortable. And some women don't, they find that as the biggest barrier to getting screened. So on top of access to care issues, we also have the comfort, stigma, and all these other factors that also come into play in preventing women from getting screened.